So when I was in sixth grade, my teacher at my school was my best friend's dad. We all went to church together, grew up with each other, he's a man that I very much love and admire. And on the one hand, it was kind of fun to have him as my teacher. On the other hand, it was like, yeah, like he goes to my church and whatnot. Anyways, in sixth grade in the school that I went to, that was still part of the elementary school. Hadn't yet moved up into junior high. And so it was after lunch one day before going to recess. I'd come back to the classroom, I think, to get something. And there was a kid in my class. Wasn't really a bully, but he could be kind of bully-ish. And I remember he was kind of picking on me, more verbally, antagonizing me. And I responded with some words back at him. And right at that moment is when my best friend's dad, the teacher, walked in and heard my response to this other kid, this bully. And he put a stop to it immediately, and the other kid got 1 day, I believe, of detention, and I got 2. And I remember being, kind of frustrated with that because, like, well, he started it. He was antagonizing me. He's the bully, whatnot. And his reasoning was he expected a little bit more out of me, with my choice of words, with guarding how I was going to respond to that situation. And that reminds me a little bit of the way this world works, that there is an internal and an external threat that we face. And I believe that's what David is getting at in Psalm 141. There's a couple of verses that kind of brings this to light. So in verses 3 and 4, and then verse 9. So listen to this. This is right after he's said, I call out to you, God, come quickly to me. Verse 3, set a guard over my mouth, O Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Let not my heart be drawn to what is evil, to take part in wicked deeds with men who are evildoers. Let me not eat of their delicacies. All right, David is recognizing, right, there's this internal need to watch what we say, that there's an internal temptation, there's internal desires that we need to be aware of and bring before the Lord and ask him to help us with that. James tells us that each of us sins when by our own evil desires that exist within us, we are dragged away and enticed. And so we have to be very conscientious of what's going on inside of us. But then also there's the external, right? There's the bully, there's the situation, there's the whatever it might be. And David references this when we get down to verse 9, right? He says, keep me from the snares the evildoers, have laid for me, from the traps set by evildoers, right? So there's this internal temptation, this internal threats that we need to be aware of and watch out for. But then there's also the external that's going on. So how do we navigate that? Where everywhere we go, there could be an external, but also the internal. How do we move forward? Well, one, David's cluing us in that the help comes from the Lord. In verse 8, he says, but my eyes are fixed on you, O sovereign Lord, and you I take refuge. Do not give me over to death. Right? He's crying out. He says, okay, I'm going to keep my eyes fixed there. Because as I keep my eyes fixed on the Lord, he can shed light, right, on the internal and the external. But I think there's also something else that we miss in the midst of this that I think is really important as we try to navigate that internal and external struggle that we all face. And that comes in verse 5. He says this, let a righteous man strike me. It is kindness. Let him rebuke me. It is oil on my head. My head will not refuse it. Now, I don't believe that what he's saying here is that he's getting beat up by somebody. I think this is akin to Proverbs 26, or 27:6, that says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. Right? Because all of us should have someone, people in our life who can speak into our life, who can speak truth into our life. And the truth isn't always easy to receive. Sometimes the truth can wound us, or it can actually reveal the stuff that's going on. And we don't like to see it. We don't like to notice it. And so somebody pointing out our errors, pointing out our mistakes, whatever, can be hard to swallow, right? And it can feel like it's an attack. And yet, because we can know that they care about us, that they love us, that they're for us, that these wounds from a friend are good, that a righteous person can strike me and it's a kindness, they can rebuke me and it's oil on my head, that there are people that we need in our life to speak this into us, because oftentimes we struggle to see the internal, what we're dealing with, what's going on, and oftentimes we can't see the external. We're struggling. We're easily getting trapped up by the world around us, and we need these people in our lives, sent by God. This is one of the ways that God works in our lives. I often talk with my students about the idea that, okay, you feel like you haven't heard from God, you haven't seen evidence of God in your life. Why hasn't God responded to you? And yet, look at the people in your life. God may not respond to you with an audible voice. It may not be a sign in the sky. But Jesus lives in that person, and that person loves you, which means Jesus is loving you. They're speaking into you. God's speaking into your life. So people are a primary way that God speaks into our lives. So my encouragement to each of us is, if we don't already have people that we know can speak into our lives, truth, not just tell us what we want to hear, but speak truth, we need to find them. Because here's the thing. Unsolicited advice is so much harder to receive than solicited advice, right? Like, how many of us just like getting told what to do or what to watch out for or whatnot? So it's hard to swallow. It's so much easier to swallow, though, when we actually go to those people and we ask them, hey, do you see anything? What's going on? Hey, I'm struggling here. And we invite their advice. We invite that feedback. We invite them to help us navigate that internal temptation, struggle, what's going on, as well as the external, how we're navigating through life and the traps that are out there and the people that want to see us fall. So may you find those people in your life who can speak the truth of the Lord, through the power of the Spirit, that you would be able to navigate this difficulty, and that your eyes would continue to stay fixed on the sovereign Lord in whom we all take refuge.